had a section which was called, back in the day, was called fund management, I think. Their interface would recognize if you had a Rigoblock pool, and it would allow you to connect and to trade directly there. Basically, what you saw was a different portal, but the order book was the actual Bitfinex portal.
Hello, and welcome to Proof of Talk, the cryptocurrency podcast where we invite leaders and builders into the space to come on and talk about their experience in the industry as well as the projects and products that they've been building. My name is Andre, and I've been in the cryptocurrency space since 2017. I've also helped co found Algorithmic crypto trading platform Aesir that enables users to quickly and easily automate their trades while managing the risk. I'm here today with Rigoblock founder Gabriele. Nice to have you, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Andrew. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. I think there's like a really interesting Rigoblock is like a really interesting solution that I want to hear more about. I did a bit of research beforehand, and we spoke a little bit beforehand as well, so I have a bit of an understanding of it. But I kept most of my questions, kind of for this recording, just to get
Mhm.
a real feeling of what it's like, and for you to walk me through this process and your tool. But first, I just wanted to say I was reading about Vitalik's new proposal to have AI based code audits for smart contracts. And I thought that was super interesting, especially coming from Vitalik.
Yeah, I don't have a specific idea on that. Just generally speaking, if you see just now, the Cancun hard fork is upcoming in a few weeks, and
Right.
there's this big upgrade of transient storage. Is one of the upgrades that is kind of promising for reducing the gas load on Ethereum and layer twos as well. And basically, already that has sparked a lot of controversy. And so, yeah, I'm curious to see what AI can do in this field. I think it can do a lot in regards to code auditing, improving securities and practices, but the human hand is kind of always, human touch is always kind of needed to fine tune on the very specifics of the EVM.
Yeah, I think having like a human override or something or a confirmation it's definitely needed. But I think an AI could just learn in real time, like what's going on in that contract, what's happening with that code base, what are the new features or the new code that's coming into that code base, and would that add any kind of like you would immediately know if that adds a vulnerability or not. And I think there's like you said, a lot of power that AI can bring to this. I was thinking way before this that AI actually it makes perfect sense to have some kind of LLM or some kind of AI that's aware of the state of the chain, like like a ghost in the machine, if you like, something that's aware of everything that's going on the chain. So you would be able to know if there's going to be a fraudulent transaction going on, or you'd be able to detect things in real time as they happen. And I
Yeah,
thought,
totally. I mean, it's I started recording in Solidity very early on, and back in the days, like the whole testing, unit testing framework was non-existent,
yeah,
and now we are at the point where we have automated testing all around, everywhere, and so we can get like full test coverage on code and stuff, and so that's like pre-production. So having also tools that help monitor in production, yeah, that's totally cool.
yeah. Is your experience in development, does that start before you got into crypto?
Well, yeah, I mean, I started my career in a hedge fund
Okay.
as a quant trader. And so basically, I was already, I had already been developing models for trading and risk assessment in the past. With the Rigoblock, yeah, I mean, I actually very early on. So I got into crypto because of Bitcoin. first thing first. Like I was first attracted to it as the idea of uh, store of value somehow. So something that
Right.
would not be depreciated by massive quantitative easing and money printing. So that's how I got into cryptocurrency in the first place. And then there was the big promise of Ethereum. And I realized that I could that actually asset management, which is the field I was working in, could be implemented on this new technology that was not yet existent. So at the beginning, I realized that there were no developers, no Solidity developers,
Right.
and so I started working on the first prototypes, and from luckily enough, Solidity in as a framework is not so much different from other Python like programming
Mm.
languages.
Like any statically typed language, it's kind of similar to maybe like C sharp, got a bit of Java in there, stuff like that.
Yeah, it was not difficult to learn. It was not difficult to also cooperate with peers in the community. It was like very easy to getting in touch with everybody. I mean, um, I wrote basically back in the day I wrote an interface contract in Solidity, which was a Solidity translation of the Viper smart contract for the original Ethereum proof of stake implementation, and Vitalik reviewed it and commented it. So it was like still to the day today it's easy to interact with everybody. Back in the day, it was like a very s- tiny bunch of developers who were trying to build things and hence um
Yeah. Yeah, it was a small team. It was a small team. I actually had a chat with one of the like core developers of Ethereum back in the day, back in 2013, 2014, when they were just starting out. And like the plan was that they were going to have multiple development teams for different languages. So like right now, the most popular client is the Geth, right? The Go client
yeah,
for Ethereum. But at the start, there was a C++ client, there was a Python client that Vitalik wrote, and the C++ client that Gavin Wood wrote. But Ethereum had some financial trouble, so like the C++ and the Python client had to go, and the only team remaining was like the Go team. Like
yeah,
marketing
yeah.
went and everything right out. So it's interesting to see how that happened. So when you got into crypto, when did you start learning Solidity? At which point?
Uh, Basically, when it was released, it was right after Frontier. There was like uh, some documentation coming up, and there I started. I don't remember exactly the year because like time flies. It's now
Yeah,
almost 8 years, and yeah, it was long time ago. I don't remember whether 2016 or 17 because Ethereum was released without smart contracts first, so you could
yeah,
only play around with, but there was no real blockchain to deploy smart contracts to. But
yeah.
basically, right after it was possible, a few months we got the first prototypes, and then we got different iterations. So we got like the first protocol out in 2018, late 2018, and then we got the second protocol out about a year ago.
Right. That's
So
for Rigoblock.
yeah. Rigoblock actually at the beginning it was called Drago. So
Okay.
and it had uh,
I
mainly
think I
Drago
saw
as a
that in the
logo, but
white
it was
paper.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I think I saw that in the white paper. You did have used the name
Yeah,
Drago
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. It's still there in the terminology, and it was this little Drago on the very first interface, um, and then we decided to give it like a different name because it was well, I mean, it was before the meme frenzy, so
Right.
Probably wouldn't even have been such a bad name.
It's not a bad name. I like it. It
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah. So let's. Do you want to give like a high level overview of what Rigoblock is and kind of what is the issue? What is the main problem that it's trying to solve?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So basically, Rigoblock is a protocol for on-chain asset management. It allows aspirant traders to deploy their trading strategies in no time at basically zero cost. That's the very short description of the project. What it does, it provides a framework for a user to deploying their smart pool, which is a smart contract that holds the tokens and interacts with external applications. So this system is preset to interact with decentralized application, which can be, which are also today decentralized exchanges, governance application, and staking applications, for example.
Okay.
It kind of on top of allowing a trader to build a track record, a publicly verifiable, having a publicly verifiable portfolio and all the transactions, of course. So Madoff style scams cannot be implemented because everything is public. It also allows traders to have a safer experience with decentralized applications because it abstracts the approvals. So when tokens are in the pool, they can get in and out of the smart pool without the trader having to manually set the approvals, which is like a big problem in on EVM because tokens get lost and also approvals can be abused.
Right.
And so the protocols takes care of that, and it's preset to interact with approved applications. So there's a governance that is based on the token. So there's a community-based governance that can add applications, new applications, new extensions, and
To the Rigoblock protocol.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, and that's your own token that governs this like a DAO
Yeah, yeah.
basically.
It's actually it's the Rigoblock protocol is formally owned by the GRG, which is the protocol token holders.
Right.
Technically, more specifically, the active GRG holders who are the stakers. So GRG
Right.
stakers actually govern the protocol upgrades, the addition or removal of extensions, basically, and a few other
Okay.
tasks. Yeah.
So when someone wants to build a new extension, then does that go through an approval process and people nodes vote on whether that extension should be allowed on the market or not?
Yeah, so basically, the all smart pools in Rigoblock operate the same way. The governance, there's some fixed parts and moving parts.
Right.
So the fixed part is like the pool implementation. The pool implementation can be upgraded by the governance. In order for having such an upgrade, the governance must approve. So there must be an on-chain vote and has to have qualified majority. So two-thirds of the voters must approve in favor of an implementation approval, and then the pool operator has to accept it. So every single pool operator has to accept an implementation upgrade. So if they don't
Right.
want to migrate to the latest, they can stay on the one they are.
Right.
So this is a safeguard mechanism. So if there's a rogue attack on the governance, then the smart pools tokens are not at risk. It's just the pool operator must accept the upgrade.
Right.
Whereas for the extensions, so the external, so that is basically for the core. The core is supposed to be stable, not change very often, and implement some core rules like minting, burning the tokens of the smart pools, and a few other administrative tasks of the smart pools. Whereas, so everything that is not related to interacting with external applications. When it comes to interacting with external applications, then the governance, basically, in order for the governance to add a new, or for a user for adding a new application, they must make an on-chain proposal. The governance must accept this new adapter. Then there's a process of mapping the methods of the adapter to the address actually of the adapter implementation. So it's a technical, but it's a way so that the, the smart pool knows where to route the call. So
Right.
when he receives a call, it needs to be forwarded to the external application. So we always have these extensions that make that create a filter between the protocol and the application. So there is also some sanitizations of parameters in case something goes wrong, and that's where we add increased security for the user. For example, Rigoblock sets the approval for a token on an external application just for the duration where the approval is required, and when the transaction is finished, the approval is reset. So the basically
Mm.
the user doesn't need to set the approval every time, doesn't need to leave the approval open, and can safely interact with the external application.
Right. And that would be, in that case, that would be the pool operator who's effectively the asset manager. Is that right?
Yeah, if he operates as an asset manager, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to go a little bit through the idea of asset managers and how they can use Rigoblock. Like, what would be like a practical application of an asset manager? So let's say there's someone creating a pool that then people start putting funds into this pool, and then the asset manager will obviously manage these funds. Can these funds be managed manually? Can they be managed automatically? Or is there scope to do both?
Yeah, they can be both because it's discretionary smart pools. So basically, the asset allocation. Currently, we have a token whitelist. We're working to um, for an upgrade. So I hope that by the time this interview goes public, we have at least an RBIP, an improvement proposal, public, so it can be discussed as well, public on the open. To remove the whitelist requirement and allow potentially any token to be swapped within the pools. But right now we have a token whitelist. The process of whitelisting a token is very simple. As long as it's a reputable token, we will add it. It's not
Okay.
and when when a pool um, already owns the token, then of course they can always sell it for their base token. But basically, it's so. What was the question?
So, like, what happens in the case of, let's say that I'm a fund manager on Rigoblock. I have my own smart contract and my own pool, and people come putting money into the pool. Um, when do they see returns, or like how are rewards being distributed from the pool manager?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, the smart pools don't have fees. So in traditional asset management, you have investment funds. So
Right.
it's a little bit different, but the dynamics are similar. They have fees. They have management fees and performance fees. and Rigoblock doesn't implement fees. It does implement an entry and exit markup that goes back to the pool. So it's to protect the pool from front running and back running of holders. That's it. So technically, the smart pool itself gets rewarded by participating in the staking system. They don't have a pool operator doesn't have like a pool doesn't have to participate in the staking in the GRG staking system. A pool can operate on Rigoblock with no fees and no cost forever. So basically, we don't make money on that. A
Right.
pool
Right.
has an incentive to allocate some of its capital to staking, so to increase the security of the protocol. It's in its own interest because by increasing the security of the staking system, it increases the security of Rigo block as a whole. So
Right.
also the management of extensions and upgrades. Also, pools that have stake have an incentive, basically have possibility to vote on the decision. So they also own the protocol. And there's a rewards mechanism. It's based on a constant inflation. So there's a maximum 2% of total supply per year, which is minted on a continuous basis on a bi-weekly schedule that is allocated algorithmically to the pools and the pool operators, and of course the stakers, because there's a system where a pool participates in this reward system based on how much stake they have in the system, and they compete with the other pools. So the one that has more stake gets more reward. This is the principle.
Right. So
But
that's for the
also,
pool. That's for the pool operators themselves. But I'm talking in terms of the people who put money into the pool.
yeah,
Because if the pool is like a hedge fund, right,
yeah,
then a hedge fund pays back its
yeah.
stakeholders. How does the fund manager pay back its stakeholders in the smart pool?
So there's two things that I would like to highlight here.
Sure.
One is that crypto is very personal. So what I've noticed working alone is that it lowers the barriers to entry to everything, and so normally people in traditional finance they get to they buy investment funds because it's easier, simple, and they do their core activities are something else, so they just delegate, and it's easy. And I've seen that it so happens also on crypto that people want to delegate capital to other people. Well, because for example, Rigoblock brings out the barrier to zero because your cost for setting up a pool, I think it potentially like it will be much more an individual thing rather than managing investment for third parties. But say someone is very good and can attract capital, right? So uh, holders, users deploy their capital to a smart pool.
Right.
Yeah, basically they get the appreciations of the underlying tokens within the smart pool without paying fees. So it's kind of uh, win-win because the pool operator can make money on his activity based on the value of the pool and on like how much he participates in the staking system, in the incentive system. And the more capital he has, the more um, capital he can allocate to the staking system. So the more power he has for farming GRGs. So he makes more money, and the users at the same time they actually get the return, the performance of the pool without any money being taken from them because they don't pay fees actually. So
Of course. Yeah.
and yeah, alternatively the holders we have a delegated staking system. So basically, users can also stake to a certain pool because he has very high staking rewards, and there they can kind of participate in the performance of the indirectly participate in the performance of the pool operator. So it's like two ways for that offers that they both have trade-offs in terms of like how much control or security you want to have.
Right. So when you say that in the second one they can participate in the rewards of the pool operator, what do you mean by that?
Well, basically, pools compete with other pools, with the other pools in the system for farming the rewards. So there's a fixed amount of rewards, and they compete. The more GRG stake they have, the more they make. But maybe there's a small pool, but very promising,
Right.
and basically they don't have much stake, so they can attract GRG stakers. So the stakers from the market, existing GRG holders or stakers, they can attract so that they can attract more stake to their own pool by well, either staking more, producing higher yields
Yeah.
by having more power or increasing the reward percentage that they share with with the delegated staker. So every delegated staker receives 30% of the pool operator's rewards minimum by rule. So,
Every staker receives 50% of the pool
30,
operator.
30.
Oh, 30. Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's a lower bound, and then the pool operator can increase how much he's sharing with the community, and
Mhm.
so that's a way to attract capital to the pool. And in this context, even a smaller pool that is emerging can attract capital and have higher yields.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense. So that's all when it comes to pool operators that stake funds to earn GRG tokens. But what if a pool operator is more like a trader? What happens in that
Yeah, I
scenario?
mean, no, 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 it's logically a pool operator will not allocate 100% of the capital to the staking system. It
Right.
will basically the idea is that we call it proof of performance. It's the GRG amount that the pool is taking is like a proxy for the performance. So it's not really, we don't calculate the performance for each pool,
Right.
but we allow the GRG to be the GRG stake by the pool to be considered a proxy of the pool value. So yes, it's possible that a pool stakes everything, but yeah, generally speaking, a pool will have like a small percentage, 1 to 5% of its capital to the GRG staking system or whatever it deems appropriate, even 0.1%, if it deems appropriate that it helps. Basically, there's an incentive for the trader um, to stake when he's holding GRG.
Right.
Otherwise, yeah, he can just trade in and out, and the holders of the pool would get the performance of the pool. That's it. Obviously, the so in that context, Rigoblock as a protocol doesn't generate it doesn't generate value for well, it kind of generates value always because there's some TVL, extra TVL in the protocol. It just doesn't create like um, immediate value to the staking system, but it's fine. Like, I mean, if you want to operate a pool and you have your own clients and you don't want to participate in the staking system, you can do that just fine. So
Right.
you don't have to pay fees, and the users don't have to pay fees. The idea is that we provide an incentive for pool operators and pools to stake and to attract stake. But if someone doesn't want to do that, it's totally fine.
Right, and I think that just makes sense. So, what are the incentives then for pool operators to stake? What are the rewards that they're getting in percentages?
Yeah, besides increasing the security of the protocol, which for smaller pools, of course, it could be marginally irrelevant. It's the staking rewards themselves. So basically, because you compete, there's always you. So
Like, is there a fixed amount or a fixed reward percentage, or is this dynamic based on how much they contribute?
yeah, it's basically there's a fixed amount of tokens that get produced, and these
Right.
produced get allocated. So it depends on. It's like I mean, it's obviously it's not proof of work, it's not proof of stake. It's a different system. It's a staking based incentive system, but it's kind of the similar concept where you have a fixed amount of reward that gets regularly minted, and some according to they are allocated according to some rules. So basically, it's if you have there's there's 5,000 GRG minted per epoch time,
Okay.
then these get allocated to the people that contribute to the pools that contribute to the system and their stakers. So basically, it's pure mathematics. I mean, a pool operator will decide whether to participate or not based uh, on their own calculations. Because it's not linear, the smaller pools have an advantage, have an edge over the bigger ones. So technically, assuming that the gas fees do not impact the return, the yield, because on Ethereum sometimes they can be high. So for
Yeah.
smaller stakes, obviously they can eat out the rewards for tiny stakes. I mean, really small. But generally speaking, there will be. So I don't want to name yields
Sure.
numbers or estimates or anything because I don't think it's fair. But it's basically the pool operator, according to their calculations, they will decide whether it's convenient to them or not.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So, what are then some of the other features of Rigoblock? What other things can people do with on Rigoblock?
Yeah, I mean, you can interact with, yeah, token dexes, you can trade. And so you can trade on Uniswap. The trade gets routed through Uniswap V2 and V3. So you have like the best DEX liquidity um, available, and you can also create liquidity providing strategies. So you can provide liquidity to pairs on Uniswap V3 and generate yield on your tokens. So you can do that on volatile pairs or on stable coins. It's up to you. You can
Right.
obviously stake on GRG, on the GRG staking system. You can participate in Rigoblock governance. So in the documentation, there's a list um, of the implemented applications, supported applications. It's still short, uh, but the basic idea is that it's being built on demand, based on demand. So when there's demand um, for a feature, then we, we we work to make
Yeah.
sure that it gets implemented. For example, now, I mean, it's been a relatively quiet period of time due to the Ethereum Cancun fork. Every project seems to be kind of holding. I mean, there's been launches and stuff, but everybody seems to be waiting for the hard fork and then deploy like Uniswap v4 and then other protocols. So we We plan to support Uniswap before
Nice.
from as soon as it's technically possible. Um, there's also a plan to integrate aggregators so that liquidity can be pulled from multiple sources. It's
Oh, that's cool.
little bit trickier, and so that could be still be delayed a bit. We see how, because now Uniswap still have like 60-70% of liquidity and volumes. So it really depends on how urgent it is to improve the liquidity depth to Rigoblock pools and what the resulting slippage improvement will be. Because if you spend 2 months or 6 months, well, no, 6 months is exaggerated, but if you spend 3 months for an integration that brings 5% improvement, like 5% price slippage improvement, it's not worth it.
It's
So,
probably not
but
worth it.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's generally speaking, there's a lot of things that are going to happen after I'm talking Ethereum community wise, like projects and stuff, after the hard fork, and also we are gonna have a few upgrades. For example, one of the things that I've been like, it's also written in the white paper. I've been looking for it since Ethereum existed. Is like on-chain oracles, and Uniswap V4 is a great venue for creating on-chain oracles, and so basically there our NAV estimate, like the value of the pools, which now is decentralized in the sense that we don't intervene in that.
Right.
That will be fully automated, will be estimated by like through on chain. I mean, it's totally reasonable to expect that, that will be that Uniswap before price oracles will be an effective source of price truth on chain on chain. So I have kind of big expectations for that, and yeah, I've made a bit of research before that, so it's like
No, that's
few
cool.
weeks uh, you need backrunning protection for rogue Oracle updates, but I mean
Yeah.
price updates. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, it's very very promising.
So what makes an on-chain oracle special? What makes the Uniswap's oracles special?
Well, that like say the alternative is just one. I mean, you have a few, but it's really just one. It's changing. So if you want to have an on-chain price, you need to use an on-chain price feed. But and it's currently it's changing aggregates from centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges, right? So
Right.
it's like a bunch of like how many they can get, but they don't support all tokens. They just support the most liquid tokens, like on and on L2s. Now we have Ethereum L1, we have L2s, and so on Ethereum L2s, there might be L1 bridge tokens that are liquid on an L1 that are still liquid on L2 but are not supported on L2. So you want to support those. How can you do that? You cannot do that in a decentralized way. Obviously, Chainlink is a centralized service, so it might have downtime. So
Right.
and also there's been price manipulations. I mean, it's a reliable source of prices, but having the basic idea of Uniswap Oracle is not that it's a Uniswap exchange. I mean, it's through arbitrage, all on-chain sources get how do you say, get
They all
reset.
level. They
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the nature of arbitrage, making fair markets and everything.
As you see, I'm very excited about that. It's kind of like one of the missing pieces in our white paper. When we started, there was so I think Rigoblock in some ways was started in a wrong way because when we started with the idea that eventually, by the time we developed, there would be dexes, there would be oracles, there would be everything, and then there was none. In fact, the first protocol we launched, it was integrated with a 0x. Uh, back in the day, it was so it's now Reno.fi. Back was Diversify, and initially was Bitfinex from Bitfinex. And so
Right.
we integrated the order book from Bitfinex or through Bitfinex, and that's how we got to actually have the possibility of executing trades, because back in the day there was no decentralized exchange. I
So
mean,
you
no
did it through a
reliable.
centralized exchange. You did it through the order book of
Yeah,
Bitfinex.
I mean, it was a pretty cool integration that we from Diversify Naurino did. I mean, the whole team. Basically, they were pulling liquidity from Bitfinex, so the order book, and and the user, they had their own portal, which was called. I don't remember whether it was Phoenix or Diversify at the beginning. So they had their own portal, and the user would go there, execute a swap on chain, and so with his on chain wallet,
Right.
and he would settle with Phoenix, and Phoenix on the back end would settle with
With its own
with
order book.
yeah, exactly, with
Right.
Bitfinex.
So the prices would be from Ethefinex's order book, and then they'd be settled on Ethefinix. So there would be basically very little slippage, just what you see on Ethefinix.
Actually, it was the big Phoenix order book. So
Yeah.
basically, when you were trading with, we did a pretty cool integration back in the day. So we had a section in our interface where you could actually trade with the Ethefinix APIs, and also on Ethefinix you had a section which was called back in the day was called fund management, I think. That
Okay.
you would it would their interface would recognize if you had a Rigoblock pool,
Huh.
and it would allow you to connect and to trade directly there.
That's
And
pretty
there
cool.
was basically what you saw was a different portal, but the order book was the actual Bitfinex portal, so a centralized exchange, full depth order book. And back in the day, it was a big deal because like there was no like real um, decentralized exchange. I mean, yeah, you had like the early AMMs, but they were not near close to like Uniswap and like
Well, there was very little liquidity on those at all, if any. Like people were not, they were not ready for it back in the day. I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, we started with this idea that everything would exist, and then nothing existed. We were there. We were lucky that we partnered with this great company, and we delivered, and then um, and then there was Uniswap, the iterations. So I think we integrated Uniswap v2 initially because there was no v3. When there was v3, we integrated like through smart routing v2, v3 together. So and obviously, I mean that's really cool because you can trade tokens that are not necessarily supported by centralized exchanges, that might be liquid, that might be, I mean, if you want to spot opportunities, that's why we have a whitelist, but we want to remove the whitelist because, I mean, how there's a time lag between the time that we are requested to add a token and the time we add it,
right.
and also there might be some controversy. Whereas by removing that. And the best opportunities are always the ones that are most overlooked. So the ones that you will never
That's
think that.
true.
Can.
That's I totally agree. But I can see also why it's controversial because like maybe you want to have the security of just having a whitelist, but at the expense of spotting less opportunities. Would it at all be possible to let pool managers choose whether they want to use a whitelist or not? Because that could be up to them.
Yeah, no, we're gonna remove it. So basically, as soon as we can deliver a stable, how do you say, extension for on-chain prices through Uniswap before, we're gonna remove it
Right.
because we're gonna just check that the oracle is valid. As soon as the oracle is valid, it just needs basically we're gonna allow any token. The protocol is gonna allow any token just based on the fact that there is an on-chain price feed.
Okay. And is that enough for it to be trusted?
Well, yeah, because we can do the checks in. There are multiple reasons why we implemented a whitelist. First, it could be a rogue token, so we wanted to avoid the idea that a pool operator can run away with a rogue token. And then we wanted to avoid the potential side effects of interacting with external smart contracts because if a rogue transaction is encoded in a way that it then gets routed not to a token but to any contract, then it's how you say it's totally possible that it gets used to perform an attack. I mean,
Right.
it's an edge case we cannot reproduce, but we wanted to avoid that kind of scenario.
That makes sense.
And so we needed to have a way to verify that the token was legit. But then when you create a Uniswap before pool, like an Oracle, then in some ways you give proof of legitimacy to a token. You also have to provide some liquidity. And
Right.
so, yes, it's possible. But there's on one hand, we want to give very good guarantees to people that operate with Rigoblock. On the other hand, there are ways through which a pool operator can always abuse their user. So we basically what we do as a philosophy with Rigoblock is because we cannot prevent that kind of abuse. We give transparency through on-chain verifiability, so everybody is able to get to the same conclusion with the same data,
Right.
and it's basically a way to spot problems early on, even though that arguably could be tricky or hard, but that's one of the properties. Properties of blockchain itself, not Rigoblock in specific, and second, we want to make it explicit. So when it could be that a trader purchases a rogue token by accident. It
Hmm.
could be that it's how you say uh, that there's actually uh, that what he does is not what a pool operator does is not what he is intended.
Right.
Not what he wants. So that's what we want to prevent. Because, for example, one way to abuse the users would be to be the liquidity provider of a Uniswap pair, for example, and then trade in and out of the pair with a fee and exhaust the pool's capital just by executing a huge number of swaps. So, these are ways that cannot, there is no way to prevent. You cannot know that someone on the other side is front back running, or you can do flashbot attacks. You can do any sort of slippage attack or swap fee attack on your users. That's why probably I think it's something very personal, asset management. And yeah, I mean, we are not able to remove trust from this part entirely.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's not actually our mission to remove the trust. It's just to basically, our mission is to minimize in an efficient way the trust that the user has to put in a pool operator, and the trust that users have to put in ourselves as a core developer of the of the protocol, because the protocol has no interaction or and no control.
Right.
And
So
yeah,
that's a good point, because I wanted to get to that and to the security aspect of it. And um, what you've said, that there's no kind of guaranteed way to ensure that a pool operator will do what they, what they should do, but um, are you able to at least kind of make it easy or accessible for people? Like if someone does what you suggested, they trade in and out of the pairs, is that easily accessible or easily visible for users to see that something suspicious is going on in that pool?
well, at the interface level you could, but I'm afraid there's not, because you have to actually look. I mean, maybe AI tools, like that's where we started
Possible,
the.
yeah. That's
Yeah, I
that's
mean, you need some monitoring tool that can detect. Yeah, actually, I mean, AI would be perfect in this context, even though I don't use AI as much. I mean, it's you could actually train a model to detect suspicious activity and then highlight it. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
because we don't do censorship, right? So we don't, at the protocol level, we have no way uh, to stop activity of a specific pool, or
right.
height activity of a specific pool. And yeah, and also these attacks are very subtle, because you might think, oh, there's a huge front and back running attack, or there's a huge flashbot attack, or there's a huge slippage attack. I mean, yeah. Um, but actually, even if you cover those cases, which are mostly covered, you always have those marginal, when it's where the yeah, exactly. I mean, I think you got the point. You take a small fee, but many times, and then eventually you deplete the capital. So
Right.
yeah, in this context, it's not possible. There's no way to guarantee that.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
it
there's no rational way to do that. You could do that, but I mean, it would increase the gas cost of the operating the pool, and it would not make much sense, because, I mean, possibly, yeah, there's definitely something that we haven't thought about, and possibly solutions. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's new emerging
hopefully.
technologies coming every day. There's things that weren't available when you guys started the protocol, and things that weren't even available 2 years ago, at least not at the level that they are now, specifically AI. But then, what's the like? If it is, if there's always a risk in DeFi, and there always is for the time being, um, what do you think makes people okay to take that risk in DeFi?
If you ask me, everybody should have their own smart pool.
Okay.
Because that's a way that you kind of, also because there's like so much information available. That's what I love about crypto. It's like, um, especially the Ethereum community, Ethereum and all the side chains, layer twos. It's like a lot of work in open source, and this philosophy is broader.
Yeah.
So basically also having all these publicly available track records, it can help you, like you first of all you can have people that can back their words, like saying I'm a good trader, with facts. And then you can kind of uh, follow them in some ways, replicate their strategies. Or so I don't think that somebody should deploy capital to people that they don't know, because we still haven't solved this trust, or actually people that they don't can have a legal recourse against.
Right. Yeah, and
But I might be
that's a good
wrong,
point.
maybe we are more ahead than what I think. But this is an aspect that was that was always problematic,
Mm.
and we have implemented ways to efficiently minimize the trust that someone has to put. But it's definitely an open question.
Yeah, and it's definitely not something that's at the point of like mainstream consumer adoption. Like most, I think most people in, or many people in finance are not actively looking into DeFi because of the risks, associated with that. That's also, I guess, one of the, and the lack of regulation. So you have a thriving DeFi community within, Ethereum, within EVM, within the cryptocurrency industry itself. But it's definitely seems that something needs to happen in order to get that mainstream adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still very early on. There's tons of innovation going on, and with big innovation comes big vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this field is going to keep innovating for the foreseeable future, but and not everything has been discovered, obviously. But yeah, I understand the skepticism. It's something that we are faced with our work every day, me myself, because
Yeah.
um, like for example, there's like we talked about Uniswap before, right? So it's we don't know when, but after Cancun, it's still I think it's still a few months away because from the work I see. But it could be 2 3 months. And so because we want to integrate it, we are looking into it. And looking into it, it's I mean, you have hooks, this new addition, which makes
Mm.
the protocol great, but at the same time, it opens a huge surface for attacks. And
Well,
so
like in what
basically,
way?
yeah, I think Rigoblock, for example, in that context could be very helpful, because I think especially at the beginning, we're gonna limit the way that hooks can interact with your wallet. So, for example, not allowing hooks to do any extra, like taking any extra tokens that the call without the hook would take. And this is kind of uh, you know extra safeguard. So that's kind of where we want to operate, like providing these bridges to external applications, try to make the user experience better, and where reasonable, also safer.
Yeah, and I think that's important. That's an important thing. So I think within the next few years, we're gonna see hopefully some more adoption of DeFi. And I guess the important thing right now about DeFi is that people need to understand that it is a still very much a wild west, where if you just jump into it without knowledge or without researching before, you could just very easily get burned. Like it's happened to so many people in the past because of it. So
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and that's where on-chain oracles are also important. Like besides Uniswap before, I mean, take any on-chain or reliable on-chain price source. I mean, say you want to do. There's been cases, like very notable cases, where a, a swap encoded correctly, but with the wrong maximum slippage that requested a minimum amount of zero returned resulted in a zero amount returned. So, protocols like Rigoblock can enforce that by rule that
Right.
a swap cannot have more than say 20% slippage or 50, even 50% slippage. So you just protect for like rogue inputs. Actually I don't remember exactly what the platform was, but it was a platform that had like an issue with the inputs on their interface. So and the user was not aware and he sent a transaction and the transaction was routed and he lost all of his funds. And so like that's why I think also, so for example, you see there's a safe gnosis safe. It
Hmm.
allows interaction with any application, but it does not make any assumption, it does not make any discrimination against any application that it interacts to. So
Right.
it's a very good platform. But I think that having some ways to filter out what matters to the community of people using a product, and then implementing those features, maybe you lose 30% of the users, but you actually make happy 70% of the users, and those 70% of the users, or even a smaller percentage, but basically that percentage of the total pool of people, they can actually have a guarantee that they're interacting in a safer way with DeFi. So in this context, I think, well, to me, Rigoblock matters.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, 100%. Um, well, listen, it's been really interesting to hear you talk about Rigoblock and about the work that you guys do out there. Is there anything that you're planning to release soon that people should know about?
Yeah, I mean, soon, no. So, I mean, it's we have a process. We discuss some things that are relatively novice. I mean, people that are in the chats, they might have understood that we're gonna uh, obviously share some more information with the community. But we have this process of developing according to the RBIP agenda, so Rigoblock improvement proposals, and I don't think we have. Let me check. Um, Something coming out uh, shortly. But everything is public, so what we uh, yeah, no, there's nothing that can spice up this conversation. So I'm sorry about that. But uh, to me, this integration with the Uniswap oracles is a pretty big deal in general for the community. I mean, think about decentralized lending protocol, a decentralized
Right.
uh, leverage trading protocol. I mean, all sort of things you can develop because you have like reliable on-chain price feeds. So I think it's going to have a big impact in general. It's going to have a big impact on us, and and the and that's probably the so short term. No, it's like it's probably going to take a few months, like
That's still
totally
good lead
because
time. That for product development, that's good. That's a good lead time. That's a good amount of time to get like a nice, super useful feature out, and I think that's exciting.
yeah, that is gonna uh, totally make the user's life, the pool operators' lives easier because they can have like uh, instant. They don't have to worry about nav estimates and stuff, and so it's actually what someone is interested in checking the real-time track record, and so that's kind of goal of going to meet the user's needs.
That makes sense. Well, listen, this has been great, Gabrielle. Thanks again for accepting to come onto the podcast and
Yeah,
talk a
thanks
little
for
bit
having
about
me,
Rigoblock.
Andre.
No, it's been fantastic. Anything, any socials or any Twitter accounts or any kind of information that you want to share with the listeners where they can find you, try out the Rigoblock app for themselves?
Yeah, but Discord is obviously the preferred way for interacting. So if you want to get in touch, it's Discord is the way. And then we have, yeah, Twitter, Rigoblock Twitter. They can engage. I mean, send DMs or just reply to a tweet, and we're gonna follow up.
Fantastic. Well, thanks a lot for that and have a nice rest of your day.